Mark Nelson is here with us this week, and he's going to show us a bracelet that was inspired by travels to a Moroccan street fair. Mark, this bracelet is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome, and it looks like it's made out of sterling wire.
It is sterling wire, and it's very simple to do. What you want to do is start with like a 10 gauge or 12 gauge wire, and we'll do some forging and bending and come up with a really cool bracelet.
Oh, well, it's really pretty. Let's get started.
I'll get started, okay. What we're going to do is we're going to measure it out, and for a cuff bracelet, for a woman, about 5.5, 6 inches is good.
Okay.
And this thing is so easy, you can really adjust it very easily. But I did about 5.5 inches, and then I took a marker and marked it about halfway. Okay.
All right.
First thing we're going to do is bend it. And what I'm going to use here is some bending pliers that bend it exactly in the spot that I need at 90 degrees. And this is going to make it much more accurate and keep this design element right in the middle. So just put it like that. Nice little squeeze. Kind of keep it straight.
Perfect.
Just like that. Now it's going to bend there. And what we're going to do is start by hand. And it's okay, you know, if it starts to get uneven a little bit, because like I said, we can adjust it and do things like that. Now what I'm going to do is kind of make this a really sharp bend by using my steel block on a sandbag. And the reason I put it on a sandbag is to deaden the sound. Because it's loud enough as it is. And if this is on a table,
really loud.
It really annoys your neighbors. So
seems like it gives you a little more control also.
A lot more control. It doesn't bounce around nearly as much. And you want to use a hammer that has a flat face, like a chasing hammer. And in this case, this is called a planishing hammer.
Okay.
So they both work really quite well. Nice polished surface on there, so not to mar the metal. Once you have it bent really tight, you take the same hammer, you can be dome side, and start hammering this out a little flat. You can make it as flat as you like. We'll start there.
All right.
And once we have that, next thing what you need to do is kind of pull it apart. That kind of gives it the twist. And this you do by hand. And try to bend it like right up here really even. And
kind of right up to that flat part that you've just hammered.
Yeah, the tighter you get your fingers up in here and use your thumbs as leverage,
the more you can pull it apart.
Yeah, you can see how tight that bend is getting.
And plus where you hammered it here, it makes it stand up. That's really pretty.
Exactly. And then what we can do is take this, once we get to this point, and take a rawhide or dead blow hammer and kind of straighten it out just a little bit. Okay? Now what we need to do is put some ends on here so that gives it a little bit of flair and a wider end.
And then you don't have any sharp edges too.
Exactly. It's going to help take care of that. And we use the same hammer, slightly domed face, and try and get this in the right configuration there. I kind of start back here a little bit, not right at the very end.
Why is that?
Because if you start at the very end, it's a little, you'll get like this kind of mushroomy thing at the end, which could be cool, you know, if that's what you're looking for.
It's just not the look you're going for.
Yeah. So nice little light taps to begin with, and then as I get towards the end, a little heavier.
So you're kind of pushing your hammer down the wire as you're working.
Yeah, because I'm forging. This is called forging, and I'm moving that metal. Like that.
Okay, can you show us doing the other end also?
This one? Yeah. And by using the domed end, it's going to spread it out a little more evenly. So.
All right. And that's a technique that people also use at the end of head pins to make a paddle head pin, right?
Just a heavier wire, more force.
Right, okay.
So, now what you can do is you can take your files and kind of, you can see there's a little sharp edge
a little burr there.
Just take a file or sandpaper, kind of...
You're just going to file it down.
Just a little bit. Make it nice and smooth. And once you're to this
so
point,
good. You can really tell on the other end the difference where you
and see how reflective it is and shiny? That's because our hammer was really smooth.
Oh, okay. You could get a totally different effect if you used a textured hammer or something.
Exactly. So once we get to that point, we need to actually make it into a bracelet. Okay. What we're going to do is use a bracelet mandrel, and this one particularly is called a stepped.
Because it has a different graduations here.
Exactly. And the idea here is if you had a wide sheet of metal it would stay flat.
Oh, okay.
And they'd make them where they're tapered like this, which work great. But when you're doing things with a really wide metal, they tend to have a taper in them.
So it's similar to a ring mandrel.
Exactly.
That you get the right size.
And so we know we're going to go about to here in this range.
Okay.
And what I do is I start on the ends and work towards the middle.
So you can't just lay it on there and...
You can actually. You can just start like this.
Oh, wow.
But when you get to these ends right here, it's a little hard to do. So what we do is we'll come over and lay the ends right here and just tap it on. And even though this is 10 gauge metal, which is pretty thick, we haven't really work hardened the metal much. And so it's actually pretty easy to move. The more you hammer it, though, the more it's going to get work hardened and stiff. And as you're hammering, you can always make corrections with your fingers at this point.
And I think I didn't understand when I first heard about work hardening that it is actually happening at a molecular level.
Oh, it is.
Pushing the metal molecules closer together, so it's making it more stable as you work harden.
Well, a lot of people don't realize is that metal has a grain structure, kind of like wood grain. And so what you're doing is you're compressing all those grains together, making the metal harder. And the nice thing about this kind of bracelet is that over time, you know, people, what they do is they open and close, open and close, open and close to get them on.
Right.
They'll put them on and do that, right? This will handle that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm always concerned about eventually breaking that.
It will eventually happen, but this lasts longer than most.
This is going to last a long time.
And the rest is really just kind of done by hand.
Just forming it some more.
Yeah, until you get it just the way you like it. And work on the sides here. And you can actually take this and turn it over like that.
Oh, and then you can really get that oval bend.
Exactly. I'm just using a C-clamp here. That way I can use any kind of work surface. You do want to make sure that it's a pretty stable table, though.
All right. Well, let's take one more look at the finished bracelet. And you know what's amazing is that we made this in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Mark.
You're welcome.